You're watching Camnet News. My name is Sharon Kalimbula. Thank you so much for joining us. We look at the stories making headlines. PF members in MWINILUNGA'S KANZENZI ward demand for their goods from UPND after loss. And government calls for sober debate on Bill 10. Poor funding hampers construction works on the LIVINGSTONE SESHEKE road. In international news, families struggle in Sudan as more floods are expected. In sports news, Zambia under 15 arrive in Egypt. Join me shortly for the details.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444 726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you a filmmaker? Well, you are exactly what we are looking for.
Camnet TV is calling on local filmmakers. For more details,
you can visit our headquarters in Ibex Hill next to Hilltop Hospital.
Contact us on
0962 444 726. Camnet TV.
Not just another channel.
Thank you so much for joining us. The details. Some residents of Nampundwe in Shibuyunju district of Lusaka province says lack of proper roads in the locality is hindering investors from investing in the area. According to the residents, those who wish to invest in the area have always been complaining of bad roads which have not been maintained for a long time now. The residents cite the Nampundwe main road as one being in a very bad state, needing urgent attention from government. They state that the farmers are also facing challenges in transporting their goods from their farms to the market. The residents are concerned that come the rainy season, the roads become impassable, making movements even more challenging.
So like they say, my youth takana challenge kulibe my industry, my investors swanga bwe because road bad. So the paper pari wa government particularly ko road. So that life my youth peze ko at least sipeza ko mopezera ko ndra. So tilikuwa na ma challenge ambiri mu schools development kulibe because road kulibe bana ba school ngati mvura ya roka kulibe kuyenda mu streams kulibe ma bridge. So mvura ngati ya roka abana kulibe kwenda ku school. Development kuno kuti bwere ma investors swanga bwere kuri road. So ndiye ma challenges nayo. So tupemba ko bomba changane kutandizireko chako.
Vutu ya menetri nayo ni road. Ikaroka mvula mamotoka ya majomba kulibe kupita. So bantu baina ma business bopeleka bogulisa ku town sibayenda. Ndaba road niyo ipa. Ikasiya kuroka mvula ndiye pamenye bayenda abantu ku town. Road yatu niyo vuta ndiye yakuti batitandizeko road kankalabwino ishinefe kupita bantu batu bankalabwino.
Meanwhile, Ngando Consulting Limited has cited lack of funds from the central government in completing construction works on the Livingstone SESHEKE roads, which has been in a deplorable state for many years now. Briefing a delegation from the Road Development Agency RDA, led by its vice chairperson Yamfwa Mukanga, company project manager Richard Kasongo, highlighted erratic funding from government as a major reason for slow pace in completing the project. Government started working on the road about 4 years ago, and up to now the works are still ongoing. Mr. Mukanga has meanwhile acknowledged a lack of funding to the project and assures the government is doing everything possible to find money for the project.
The first section is about 10 kilometers from 65 to 75, where we are doing crack sealing, pothole patching and asphalt laying of 40 millimeters. Then we have a critical section of an embankment. The terrain is more or less flat. So what happens is water, when the Zambia breaks its banks, water doesn't go anywhere, so you have flooding. So that flooding causes the soaking of the embankment, which washes away the fines, and so you find depressions that have formed. So that 50 kilometers, we have to work on improving the drainage system by having more channels, so that even if water doesn't go, but it's able to move around. And then after that 50 kilometers in the middle, we have the 37, where we are doing some reconstruction in some cases, and also the same portal patching and asphalt laying. This first section, we have managed to do 1.5 kilometers. But like the engineer has mentioned, we were doing some holding maintenance, but we thought it's better that we put money to permanent works. So what we have suffered, why activity level, as you can see, is low, is basically the issue of cash flow. I think that's what we...
And what is happening? Because I think we have received a lot of complaints, and we thought we should just have an on-site check to see exactly what is happening. Otherwise, that issue of cash flow is understood, and we're aware about it. The government is doing all they can to ensure that that improves.
Solwezi Central Member of Parliament Stanford Molusa says he is dismayed at the level of vote buying and violence being exhibited by a named political party in the name of winning votes whenever there is an election. Mr. Molusa notes with sadness that the named political party is spending huge sums of money on by-elections. Money, he says, can be used to build schools and clinics for the people. He is also concerned with the level of violence being meted on participating political parties under the watch of the Zambia Police and the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Mr. Mulusa was managing the Mushiba Ward by-election of Mofumbwe District in Northwestern Province.
So even when we say PF4 has won, I don't think it's a genuine win. I believe it's a lie, because there is no level playing field, and also my appeal goes to the police, who seem to be very reluctant in terms of trying to help avoid malpractice during the elections. Also the ECZ, we are doubting their capacity to run the elections next year, especially if they can allow people who are closer to the election centers to involve themselves in corruption. For instance, in Kashima, where we won under very difficult conditions, you cannot corrupt people like the way we are seeing. It's very much unprecedented. To the Lukasia and the Mwasawombwe by-elections, under normal circumstances, very normal circumstances, the UPND are supposed to petition the Lukasia by-election. But looking at the time that we have before the general election, I think it might not be possible. But what had happened in Lukasia, the violence that we had experienced in Lukasia, I think it is also unprecedented, and the people are fighting like that, people are damaging property like that, under his nose. That speaks something loud.
Meanwhile, the ruling Patriotic Front PF members in Kanzenzi ward complained bitterly after losing the seat to the opposition United Party for National Development UPND. The members stated that the UPND members were deceiving them of being in support of their candidate, and yet note they have since demanded that they take back their food, money and other things they got in printers of being Patriotic Front. One of the leaders, who was almost in tears, said voting for the UPND is simply saying no to development, stating that if the PF won, the area would have seen unprecedented development. Still on elections, the Christian Churches Monitoring Group, CCMG, an alliance of 4 faith-based organizations, has described the recently held by-elections in Mwansa-Bombwe and Lokasha constituency as being peaceful. CCMG is, however, concerned about the widespread intimidation and some reported electoral malpractices. The group has particularly pointed out the distribution of food items by the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU as being one of the most notable electoral malpractice. CCMG wonders why DMMU seem to be more proactive in distributing food items such as meal in areas where they are by elections. This is according to a CCMG pre- and post-election observation report. You're watching Camnet Main News. Just now we take a break. Join me shortly for more interesting stories. Stay with us.
I have used Oracle Pure Glycerin for 2 years now. It has really worked for me. It has cleared all the black spots on my face. It has restored my skin beauty. It also smoothens the skin. Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for perfect skin. If it's not Oracle Glycerin, then it's not Pure Glycerin.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customerservice@lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
This is Camnet News. Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. The government has instructed that children below the age of 5 are not supposed to wear face masks. Speaking at the daily COVID-19 update, Health Minister Chitalu Chilufya explains that face masks pose a challenge on children's respiratory system. The minister's directive comes in the wake of reopening of schools on Monday, 21st September 2020, where government had initially indicated that wearing a face mask by pupils is mandatory. Meanwhile, the country has recorded 61 new COVID-19 cases from the 1,521 tests done in the last 24 hours. Let's get the details in this report. Zambia has continued to record steady progress in the fight against COVID-19, with the latest report being impressive. Health Minister Chitalu Chilufya is impressed with the low records, adding that this is an indication that there is increased adherence to health measures, but more needs to be done. The minister has also revealed that 61 cases of COVID-19 have been recorded in selected parts of the country in the last 24 hours.
Today we continuously see a reduction of cases in the hospitals, in the COVID facilities. It's a good indicator. We see a critical mass of citizens in various parts of the country wearing masks. It's a good thing. It is the reason why we've seen reduced transmission, we've seen reduced positivity from the tests that we do. 61 cases have been recorded in the last 24 hours out of 1,521 tests done, and these have been recorded mainly in Lusaka, Nakonde, Kabwe, Serenje. Therefore, our cumulative number of cases now stand at 14,131. We've also continued to discharge patients, and 253 patients have been discharged in the last 24 hours. So, out of the total of 139,948 tests done so far, 14,131 have proven positive. Recovery stand at 13,618, and deaths are at 330. 3 are yet to be classified.
And Ministry of Health Director Infectious Diseases Professor Lloyd Mulenga says children below the age of 5 should not wear masks but should be provided with a loose cloth to cover their nose in order to ease their breathing. He says children below the age of 5 are still prone to COVID-19 infections. His comments comes in the wake of students opening schools tomorrow, 21st of September 2020.
That children may also have severe disease, and that children may also carry the same burden of the virus just like adults, even when do not have symptoms. So they can be a source of transmission themselves, and as a result we need to take care of them to prevent them getting the infection, but also them spreading the infection either in the school settings or also in home settings. Then we realize that those, if they continuously put on a mask, that would be a risk to them, and including children. So for those, the recommendation for Zambia is those who are 5 years and above should mask up. Then those who are below 5 years, they should not. However, we are advising that they should have a loose cloth around the face.
The minister has reiterated the call to sustain the positive trend by following the 5 golden rules despite the country making progress thus far. The ministry has also announced that it will now give COVID-19 updates to the nation on Mondays and Fridays and not a daily basis as been the case. Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka. Moving on in the news, a consortium of civil society organizations have petitioned President Edgar Lungu to institute a commission of inquiry into the privatization process which happened many years ago. While campaigning in Lokasha and Wansabombe parliamentary by-elections, President Lungu told the people that he wouldn't hesitate to constitute a commission of inquiry in the privatization process so that those who illegally benefited must account for their actions. Other stakeholders have, however, hinted that the Commission of Inquiry is only targeted at UPND President Hakainde Hichilema. Recently, the movers of the motion to have the inquiry instituted recently wrote to the Chief Justice on the same matter, but responded that she has no powers to constitute a commission of inquiry but the head of state. In this regard, the consortium has launched what they are calling Citizens' Petition to President Edgar Lungu to institute a commission of inquiry on the privatization of Zambia's asset. The petition, which can be signed online, seeks to collect 20,000 signatures to be presented to the president on Friday this week. The civil society organizations comprise the National Youth Anti-Corruption Movement, Young African Leaders Initiative, and the Zambian Institute of Governance and Civil Liberties Advocacy Platform. The members held a joint press briefing in Lusaka Sunday.
President of the Republic of Zambia, His Excellency Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, to institute a commission of inquiry on the privatization of Zambia's assets. As I indicated at the beginning, we are relying on the Inquiries Act, Chapter 41 of the Laws of the Republic of Zambia. To be specific, we are relying on Section 2 of Chapter 1 of the Laws of Zambia under the Inquiries Act. This petition is our joint continued effort. After having petitioned the Chief Justice, our late Chief Justice Irene Mambilema, to open an inquiry into the privatization of national assets. We want to state that we are encouraged by the response of our country's #1 judge, who has recommended that such an inquiry can only be set up using the presidential powers conferred on the Republican president. It is for this reason that we are today launching this citizens' petition to the Republican president to set up that inquiry. We intend to present this petition to the President this Friday, once we're able to collect 20,000 signatures. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have never failed the citizens of the Republic of Zambia. Once we say that we are writing a letter, we do write a letter.
And in a related development, former Konkola copper miners are calling on the Ministry of Finance to investigate the sale of government assets, which they say was done without proper consultations. Chairperson for ex-miners Ilunga Kasompe says the sale of mining companies, among other public properties, has left many stranded with little to fall back on. Mr. Kasompe has since appealed to the Minister in charge of Finance to tell them how the assets were sold through an investigation.
Accounts of the offshore investments that were made for KCM pension scheme from 2000 up to 2018. 5, we demand an immediate investigation into the conduct of the KCM pension scheme board of trustees, the trade union leaders, and the KCM management. 6, we are demanding an investigation into the operations of the Pension and Insurance Authority because the report they gave to the Minister of Finance was untruthful. 7, we are demanding that the Minister of Finance avails us the report of the government auditors who came to audit the KCM pension scheme early this year.
Government has advised members of parliament to be objective and allow for sober debate on the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019, which has been restored on the older paper. Parliament Chief Whip Brian Mundubile, who is also PF Chairperson for Legal Affairs, says the opposition lawmakers should clearly state their reservations in the bill as opposed to walking out of Parliament. He notes that the issues such as mixed member proportion representation, delimitation, reaffirmation of the Christian nation, and changing the electoral system to do away with by-elections are some of the aspirations of the general citizenry, which Bill 10 will address once passed into law. He added that the just ended Lukasha parliamentary by-elections serves as an eye-opener to political players on the urgent need for the delimitation process and in turn enhance development in vast constituencies. This story is courtesy of PF-sponsored page Smart Egos. We take a break. Still to come is international and sports news. Stay with us.
To create a positive difference in people's lives, one must first understand the way people live. At Savenda, we're here for our community, our partners, and our future, as a nation and as a continent.
Back in 1997, we decided we were going to create this family journey into a bigger opportunity, and created a business called Savenda, which meant save nations to develop Africa.
It's always important to give back to the people. The government cannot do everything, but as business entities, we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
From our humble beginnings in the telecoms and mining sectors to our work in energy and development projects, we know how important it is to be true to our roots.
Our services have to be diversified so that we don't depend on one income stream. Back in the village, I was growing up hunting and doing everything that a village boy would like to do. When you're hunting, you don't depend on one trap, for example. You have to have many traps. So those survival skills brought into the business created opportunities that we learned from a young age that you can't survive with just one product. Savenda Group involves Savenda Management, which is a consulting, Savenda Express, which is a corporate branding company, Savenda Electric, which is a manufacturer of energy-saving bulbs, Savenda General Insurance, which is a general insurance company, Savenda Fresh Produce, Cyber Africa, which is a center for just dealing with cybersecurity.
Now, Savenda is combining local knowledge with international expertise. It's time to be a part of Zambia's rising success and Africa's exciting future.
We are a gateway into Africa, and now we are praying with global companies who are coming to Zambia for opportunities and to look for companies that are homegrown, and we are proud to be one of those.
Welcome back. In international news, the Sudanese government is being urged to do more to prevent damage and loss of life from heavy flooding. 500,000 people have been forced from their homes and more than 100 have died. There are warnings of more flash floods as authorities and international agencies work to stop disease spreading in affected villages. In other news, hundreds of thousands of people in South Africa have been left with no affordable transport after parts of the rail system closed down. Train services have already been severely limited due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and now the theft of cables, even station roofing materials, has led to even more limitations as the passenger rail agency struggles to keep trains running. Al Jazeera has more on these stories.
There is no let-up in the suffering of Sudan's flood victims. In Sinjar town in southwestern Sudan, entire neighborhoods remain completely cut off. The Haya Shargi neighborhood is only accessible by canoes. Ahmed Abdullah sent his wife and children to account for the displaced, but chose to remain behind to guard his flooded house. He is angry at the lack of help.
The response from the government has been very weak. For the past 3 years, we've been begging the government to reinforce the flood defences, but they didn't. We went and spoke to everyone from the local authorities to the national government, and still nothing.
The worst floods for 100 years in Sudan completely destroyed most homes in this neighborhood. The government has defended its response so far, saying that it's been hindered by international economic sanctions, as well as the sharp fall in the Sudanese pound.
Our house was the first one to be flooded in the neighborhood. We were asleep. We could only save our lives. Everything we owned got swept away.
Sudan's rapid deployment forces have sprayed insecticides on pools of stagnant water to kill mosquito larvae. But given how widespread the flooding has been, it's almost impossible for everywhere to be disinfected. The destruction of thousands of pit latrines by the floods poses a grave danger to the population. UN agencies like UNICEF are now helping the government run emergency health centers to deal with any outbreaks. At one of the numerous camps for the displaced in Sinjar, UNICEF medical staff are immunizing children against measles and other communicable diseases. The healthcare workers say they're doing everything they can to avoid outbreaks.
Scaling up our nutrition surveillance. Now we are conducting mock screening to be on standby for any nutrition outbreak, and also to detect early the malnutrition cases and to treat them and to refer them if they need further treatment.
The government in recent days issued new alerts to communities living on the banks of the Nile that rains in the highlands of neighboring Ethiopia could lead to flash floods. Sudan's Humanitarian Aid Commission says 650,000 people have been affected since the start of the rains in mid-July. Millions of others are facing hardship as the cost of food and transport soars because of the flood disaster and long-running economic turmoil in Sudan.
About 1.2 million commuters across South Africa's Gauteng province use these trains every day. They're a lifeline for those travelling to work and school who can't afford more expensive transport such as minibus taxis. But with coronavirus lockdown restrictions limiting timetables and now widespread theft, train services across South Africa are facing a crisis. Thieves have pillaged stations, stolen cables and vandalized facilities. In Gauteng province alone, trains are operating at under a third of normal capacity.
We can say that it's economic sabotage because Gauteng is an economic hub.
if you cripple the rail infrastructure, the rail infrastructure is the one that will link many economic activities. So it is a real economic sabotage from that angle.
In this mobile footage, thieves are seen risking 3,000 volts of electricity running through the cables to get to the valuable copper. In another video, men can be seen removing corrugated iron sheeting from the roof of a railway station. These are overhead traction wires which supply power to the trains. Little remains. The passenger rail agency PRASA has had to rent diesel-run locomotives to pull the trains instead. The government says the stolen copper is melted down and exported through Mozambique to markets in Asia. It's believed it will cost at least $120 million to replace the stolen and damaged equipment and facilities. This is one of several metro railway stations and offices across the Gauteng province vandalized and looted. Much of the damage happened after security was pulled out months ago, leaving this station and many others unguarded. Security was withdrawn after it was uncovered that contracts had been awarded illegally.
PRASA is an organization that was overrun by malfeasance. Malfeasance attacked a number of key and strategic areas within PRASA. And the contracts, the security contracts were designed to favor security companies and the people who were benefiting from that inside PRASA.
While the rail agency was last year placed under administration by the Minister of Transport to fix its problems, the government has not given a clear timeline of when the train system will work properly. So as a mess of cables dangle in the air, so too do the hopes of hundreds of thousands of commuters desperate for a reliable transportation system.
We now look at sports news. In sports news, the Zambia under-15 national soccer team has arrived in Egypt, where they are expected to play Zamalek in an international friendly match. The team touched down Cairo International Airport 52 minutes past midnight and received by First Secretary Political and Administration at the Zambian Embassy, John Perry. Chisimbewe's drilled side has agreed to play a friendly match with Zamalek, subject to Egyptian clearance of COVID-19 protocols. While in Cairo, the team is also expected to be issued with visas to Croatia ahead of the 8th National Vlatko Markovic Invitation Tournament that kicks off on Wednesday this week. Well, that sporting item brings us to a close of our news this evening, but before we go, let's just look at the headlines once again. Patriotic Front members in MWINILUNGA'S KANZENZI ward demand for their goods from UPND after loss. And government calls for sober debate on Bill 10. Poor funding hampers construction works on the LIVINGSTONE SESHEKE road. And international news, families struggle in Sudan as more floods are expected. And Zambia under 15 arrive in Egypt. We now look at the Camnet verse for the day, and it's coming from the book of Galatians 1 verse 10, and it reads, "For do I now persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet pleased men, I should not be the servant of Christ." That's all we could accommodate for you on the news desk. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Sharon Kalimbula. Good evening.